class, here is a brief tutorial on how to calculate real GDP. If you remember back from the lecture, real GDP reflects, or I should say, eliminates the effects of inflation on output on a year-to-year basis. So what real GDP does is eliminate the price effect and fixes the price to a certain base year so that the calculation can look at production or output only, which is what measure or the economy is measured upon. If you look at it algebraically, any GDP calculation is equal to the number of units produced times the final market value, or the market value of all these final goods and services produced. Market value is a synonym for price. So a GDP that has only a one product or one service economy that produces 100 units of that product and sells them for a price of $10 has an output of $100. Now, the next year, that economy could still produce 100 units, but the price is subject to change because of inflation. The best way to look at this example is to put it in a table. So we have a one-product economy. Whatever that one product is. And in 2012, we produced 100 units at a price of $10 for a total GDP of $1,000. And that is found just by multiplying the quantity or number by the price. In 2013, we think we're going to produce 110 units at a price of $11, or a GDP of $1,210. Now we could see that based on our GDP year over year, we had about a 21% increase. But in actuality, we only increased production by 10%. That's because price also increased by 10%, or we could say, as we learned, price has inflated by 10%. As we explore further, we could see that the increase in price or inflation could mislead us when we're looking at GDP numbers from year to year. So let's take our example out a couple of more years, from 2012 to 2013 to 2014 and all the way up to 2015, where we had 100, 110, let's say this is 115, and the quantity 2015 is 110 at a price of 10, 11, 12, 13. Now, if we were going to calculate the GDPs for any specific year using that year's price, that is what is referred to as nominal GDP. Nominal GDP is GDP calculated with the current year prices. Current year prices or current year GDP is what the BEA, Bureau of Economic Analysis, uses when they're posting their files. They refer to nominal GDP as current year GDP. So we would just walk through these calculations for each specific nominal GDP period. Now, once we fill in the table for the nominal GDP numbers for each specific year, we can see that 2012 we had a nominal GDP of 1,000, which grew to 1,210 in 2013, which grew to 1,380 in 2014, but which grew to 1,430 in 2015. However, if we look at our quantity numbers, we had an increase, quantity produced numbers, we had an increase between 2012 and 2013, an increase between 2013 and 2014, but we had a decrease between 2014 and 2015. This decrease in production would represent a recession, but because nominal GDP shows an increasing GDP number, we may miss it. And that is why the BEA and economists use real GDP to analyze changes in output from one year to the next, because what it does is it stabilizes the price at any given year. If again we write the calculation for GDP out, we see that GDP is going to equal to the quantity or number times the price. And what real GDP does is it fixes this price so that the output of the equation, GDP, will go up and down based on how the number or quantity goes up or down. And it's a better reflection of output by taking away the effects of inflation. So to calculate real GDP, all you do is fix the price to a base year. For our example, let's say that our base price is 2012. So to calculate real GDP, we will calculate the quantity times the base year price for every given year. In the base year, nominal and real GDP always equal. And then if we just go back and fill in this table, we will see that when we multiply 110 times 10, we have an increase in GDP of about 10%, which is what we see in production. When we multiply $10 by 115 units, we have a production increase or real GDP increase of 5%, which matches our production increase. But when we multiply the quantity produced in 2015, we see that we have a reduction of 5% in both GDP, which reflects a 5%, approximate 5% reduction in the quantity produced. So to calculate this real GDP column, it's just the number produced in any year multiplied by that base year price. And again, this is done to eliminate the effects of inflation, which if we did not, we would incorrectly assume that this economy is expanding when in actuality it is contracting. I hope this tutorial cleared up some or all of the confusion that you may have relating to how to calculate real GDP.